Okay, so once again, so good evening to you all. So the before the session, so I will be give some kind of the guidance or the support for your individual assignments. Okay, the first thing, so this is the course outline of the managerial economics. The specialty of this subject is you can see the weightage of the assignments. The weightage for the individual assignment, you can earn the 25 marks. For the group assignment, you can earn the 25. That means before the end semester examination, you will earn 50 marks out of 100. තේරුණාද ළමයි? So that means this subject is very much important. So if you do nothing with your assignments, you cannot take the good results with the final examination. The reason is final examination carries out only the 50 marks. So that means you need to balance the assignments as well as the mid-semester examination. So this is very simple task to you. The first thing, all the guides available in the LMS, this is a data project. So you need to collect the data from the different kind of sources and you need to analyze so where the point we discuss at the topic 5. So the first individual assignment is up to the production theory and efficient. So after that, the group assignments, we can continue with the remaining parts. For the group, we make a small changes to your course outline. So the in group presentations will be taken on 12th weeks onward. So that means the 12 this semester consisted only the 14 week. So that means 12, 13 and the 14th week. So we will take your group assignments, group presentations. Okay, so we will share with you the presentation schedule with you, and after the session I will put you the Google sheet link to update your group details. Okay, so that means the both are important because 25 each carry out the 25 marks. Come to the assignment. The assignments explain the guide was given. Yeah. So the Dropbox are already available in the LMS. You can see under the 8th week, you need to submit. After 2 days onwards, you have only the 14 days. First thing, you need to select a company. First, go to the, so this is a draft report the uploaded by the madam. So according to this, so you need to select a company according to your preference. You can select a company. First task, once you select the company, you need to do a economic factor analysis. Economic factor analysis means the data you need to taken from the World Bank data link. So you need to go to that World Bank link. So I open the World Bank link. So with that World Bank link, you can select the country and cite the data. Once you cite the data, you can see this kind of scenario. So in here, so you can go to the economic data or you can go to the different kind of data available. So you can select the economics and everything. For the here, select the country and go to the cite the data. In here, so you can select the company as well. Yes, I select the Sri Lanka. And the different kind of data will be available. So if it is relating to the taxes related, if it is relating to the finance, the lot of data where they are out of date, out of this kind of data, you need to select the most critical economic related data. It can be relating to the finance, it can be a international trade and everything, and you need to develop based on that data. So how that data it relates to your company. So you need to do an analysis how this World Bank data will applicable to your company. So the first task become the assignments given the economic factor affecting to the managerial decision. So the data you need to take from this one. In here, so you can see there is the different kind of formats available. You can download it, export to the data. You can take the jpg files, png files, as well as the excel. So the try with this one. So if you have the issues, you can contact. The first thing, you need to identify the economic data. So this is a summary to you. After that, you need to analyze so how this data is relates to your company. The second one, the demand analysis. Demand analysis, to analyze the demand, you need to go to the Google Trends. So you need to go to the Google Trends and you can analyze the particular demand or supply that relates to the particular company. So if you relates to the dialog company, so you need to forecast the demand. To take the demand related data, so you need to go to the this Google Trend. So once you given to the Google Trends, you can select your company. So once you select the company, there are a lot of data available. Based on the data, you can take. So which kind of data you are going to select to derive the demand functions of the particular company to data. To these assignments, to take the data, definitely you need to go to the this links. මේ link වලට යන්නේ නැතුව ළමයි assignment එක කරන්න බෑ. So go to the link and open. So you can identify a lot of options for there. So you need to go to the link and you need to find it. So this is for this general understanding for the assignments. So once you collect the data from the Google Trends, you need to go to the Statistica software, not the software, the Statistica. This is also the available in the Google. Yes, the different kind of screenshots or the charts available, you need to take everything because it's better for the Google Trends. You can identify the, you can analyze the different kind of competitor analysis, the lot of things you can do. Take everything because these things the chat GPT or AI cannot provide this kind of things. To take this part, you need to go to the link. ඔයා ළමයි මේවා ගන්න ඔයා link එකට ගිහිල්ලා ඔයා දාන එක තමයි මේ ඉන්නේ. So if it is a demand analysis likewise, and after that you need to, so based on that you can analyze the demand based on the different kind of fluctuations. You identify the different kind of changes, so how these are vary with the seasonal fluctuations based on the economic fluctuations. And after that you can go to the Statistica software with, this is not the software, this is also a link. Go to the Statistica and you can upload the collected data and you can download the particular graph from the Statistica. So the Statistica also support you. Yes, the Statistica supports you to identify the price elasticity. So the demand analysis, you need to go to the Google Trends. May data tika ona lamai. First thing, you need to select a company and you can go to the link and you can collect it. After that, you can analyze by using the different kind of methods. For the Statistica, you can analyze the pricing strategies and the price elasticity. For the production and efficiency, once again, you can go to the Kaggle dataset. For the Kaggle datasets, you need to analyze the production function that relates to your company. Because we discussed the different kind of the three methods of the production function. So at the end, you need to be ended with these production functions applicable for the company. For the production function analysis, you can go to the Kaggle. So as well as you can go to the Kaggle, and as well as you can go to the World Bank dataset. So the format also given. With the Kaggle also, you can take the sales forecasting, the production forecasting, everything you can take. So at the end, you can make your summary and you can upload it. The second part, the advanced part, based on the cost part. Simply, first what you need to do is select a company, and after that, go to the World Bank forum, select the different kind of the data. So that means that's relating to the economic, finance, taxations, relating to the everything. Yes, sometimes to download the datasets, you need to subscribe it. So without subscribing, so you can download the free datasets. Try to download the free datasets. And the second task, you need to demand analysis. For the demand analysis or the competitor analysis, better to go to the your friend Google. Trend Google එතකොට යන්නේ නැතුව ළමයි මේක කරන්න බෑ. ඔයාට කරන්න නම් you need to go to the trend Google. ChatGPT එකට කිව්වට දෙන්නේ නැහැ. For the write up you can use the ChatGPT and AI everything for the write up. But the write up should be consistent, the data analysis and everything. So after that, you need to go to the Kaggle and Statistica if it is a price elasticity, and also you can measure the pricing strategies for the company. And finally, you can come to the Kaggle. With the Kaggle, you can end it with which company the production function based on. So if it is a Leontief production function or linear or any kind of methods. So you have the 2 weeks. The first thing, the data is important. So refer the given guideline. So the individual assignment that carry out the 25 marks. 25 marks. Okay. So the draft, this is not a draft. So this is a normal guide for your reference. The developed by the madam for your reference. Then මේක හිතන්න එපා. මේක නෑනේ analyze කරලා දාලා අපි දාන්න ඕනේ නෑ කියලා. ඔයා දාන්න ඕන ළමයි නැත්නම් your marks, we can deduct your marks. Okay. The notes also given for the Google Trends. This is a full free. The Statistica, so you can full downloads. The Excel you can download because sometimes you need to pay. So the normally around the 5 to 6 time you can take the free charts. So that's thing lamai. That is the all thing relating to the individual assignment. Select a company and everything you can analyze. That means so if you are to go to the Google Trends, so once you put your company, so the different kind of information you can take. Options have based on the trending and everything, the volumes you can check, the breakdowns, the different charts you can take and analyze it. Don't worry about the assignments. Assignment එකට බය වෙන්න එපා ළමයි. First data ටික collect කරන්න. Data ටික collect කරගත්තට පස්සේ ඔයාට කරගෙන යන්න පුළුවන්. Now I am continuing with the session based on where the point we ended with the last week. Okay, this also important for your assignments because these are relates to our production function. For the production function, we discussed the 3 kind of production function. These are the 3. First one become the linear production function. The second one, Leontief production function. And the last one, we discussed the Cobb-Douglas production function. Cobb-Douglas production function. So if it is a simply, we are going to discuss isocons. So if it is a isocons means simple meaning, this is a combination of the inputs. Combination of inputs we are using for the production. Combination of inputs. As a combination, what we used as a combination? Combination means we used the capital and the labor. Simply, the isocons means the different kind of combination of the capital and labor for the same level of output. So as the example, you can see the output is 6. To generate the output, we can utilize the different kind of volumes. So that means for that, to take the 6 of quantity, for the capital, we need this amount. For the labor, we need this amount. So likewise, the different kind of combinations shows us to the input combination that generate the same level of output. So if you look at the different kind of isocons curve, within the isocons curve, the quantity didn't change. This is the combination can be changed. The combination means the mix of capital and the labor can be changed, but the output become constant. Output didn't change. Simply, what is the isocons? Simply you can write down this is a combination of input. So that means the capital and the labor to generate the same level of output. So another way. So by this is the isocons curve. May then එක isocons curve you have. So you can write down the isocons curve. So this is a geometric curve. So this is a geometric curve, or so you can write down as algebraical functions. So you can write down as a algebraical function. So that represent what? That represent various combination of capital and the labor. So that can be used for the producing the given level of output we call the isocons. Another type of definition. Because by looking at the isocons curve, so what happened? If the curve become convex, if the curve become convex means, so if I select the particular curve, so this curve like this, what happened? So this is the labor axis. If we come to the downside of the curve, it's more labor intensive. So if we come to the downside of the isocons curve, this is labor intensive. So if we go up to the curve, so that means more capital intensive. උඩට යද්දි මොකද ළමයි curve එකේ තියෙන්නේ? If we go for above combinations of the line, so this is they are using the more capital. මෙහෙට යද්දි more capital and less input, less labor. So that means this is a capital intensive. So if we come to the down of the particular isocons curve, this is more labor intensive and they are less capital intensive. So relating to the different kind of isocons curve, we can find the slope. දැන් අපි මොකක් හරි දැක්කොත් ළමයි අපිට මොකක්ද කරන්න පුළුවන්? You can find the slope. So how we can find the slope? So now I need to find the slope of the isocons curve. How to find the slope of the isocons curve? Slope means simply, so delta y. Delta y divided by the delta x we call the slope of the isocons curve. So delta y represent on which one? Delta 1 represent on which one? So please develop your own notes, because these things I didn't include the note as well. Because to generate the slope, so delta y divided by delta x, or delta y represented by the capital. So that means we can write down, so delta k, the changes of the capital divided by the changes of the labor. So this is a 1. So sometimes if you select the 2 kind of points in between here, how we are going to find the value? The delta k. How to find the delta k? Delta k. So if you have the 2 points with this one, so you can change the difference between the 2 points of the capital. So that means you can take k1 minus k2, k1 minus k2 divided by the L1 minus L2. So this is the slope of the isochronous curve. The slope of the isochronous curve, we can use another specific name. මේ slope එකට ළමයි we can use another name. We call the MRTS. We call the MRTS, the slope. So what happened to the slope? දැන් මේ curve එකේ පහළට එද්දි. So if we come to the lower side of the curve, what happened? So we can say this is a labor intensive, so not a capital intensive. So what happened? So if we come to the lower part of the particular curve, so the MRTS means the marginal rate of technical substitution. The marginal rate of technical substitution, what happened? So it's become, the slope become decrease. Simply you need to take the idea, the slope become decrease. The මේ හරියෙන් හදලා බලුවොත් ළමයි, the slope is high, but here the lower slope is there. The lower slope is there. So that means if it is a labor intensive, so what happened to the marginal rate of technical substitution become decrease. Marginal rate of technical substitution become decrease. So what is the marginal rate of technical substitution? So MRTS means simply the slope of the isochronous curve. So you can commit the slope of the isochronous curve become the marginal rate of technical substitution. So what happened to the slope? Simply, so with the slope that represent on what? So this is a one input, maybe substitute by another. So one input. පහළට එද්දි මොකද වෙන්නේ? So this is a labor intensive. So this side we call the capital intensive. So that means the one input may be substitute for another input producing the given quantity of output we call the MRTS. So the one input may be substituted by another input. One input may be substituted by another input, but to produce the same amount of output we call the MRTS. So the isochronous curve means the slope called the MRTS, but the important thing, the quantity, the output didn't change, but we have the different kind of combination that all the combination provide the same amount of output, same amount of output. That means if you wish to engage with this point, so you need the capital this one and you need the labor this one. So you are focusing the labor intensive. So if you wish to more capital and the more labor, so you can start at this point. So what happened? The slope become increase. Slope become increase means what? The slope එක වැඩි වෙනවනේ ළමයි. Slope means delta k divided by delta a. Delta L. මේක වැඩි වෙනවා කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? So what does mean? මෙතන ආව කියලා හිතන්නකො 2. We will receive as a 2. So that means the delta. The answer will receive the 2 means the delta k is higher than delta L. So that means simply the 2 units of capital requires a 1 unit of labor. Simply the 2 units of capital requires a 1 unit of labor. එතකොට මෙහෙටදී මොකද වෙන්නේ? So if we come to the lower side of the curve, what happened? What happened? පහළට එද්දි. So the capital requirement become decreased and labor requirement become increased. For the isochrones, the important thing, if the particular inputs, it's not a fully substitute, because if the particular inputs become perfect substitutes, what happened? The previous day we discussed, if it is a perfect substitute, that means we can change in between the different kind of output. But here the thing is, these are the, if it is relating to the Cobb-Douglas function, so we are in the middle of the Leontief and the linear function. For the types of the isochronous curve, the previous day we discussed the important thing, the two functions. The first one, linear production functions. For the linear production function, so what is the, which kind of inputs they used? So which kind of inputs they use for the linear production function? For the linear production function, the inputs are perfect substitutes. So that means if it is a K and the L, they can fully replace by the another. So that means if it is a perfect substitutes, what happened to the isochronous curve? So this is the isochronous curve. The isochronous curve become the straight line. The isochronous curve become the straight line. So if it is a straight line, you know, the slope become constant. Slope become constant means what? Slope become constant means for the everywhere, so you need to sacrifice, you need to require the same level of output to generate same level of inputs or capital requirements for the generate the production output. So you need a same level of output. If it is a 2, that means for the 2 capital requirement, you need a 2 labor requirement. So if it is a perfect subsidies, so this kind of curves, if your case study, so at the additional sessions, I will discuss with you the case study. So with that case study, so we are not providing the information to the, if the isochronous curve are the straight line. The reason is isochronous curves become a straight line if the production function is the linear production functions. So if the company use the linear production function, so what happened? The curve become a straight line. එතකොට මේ වගේ හම්බුනොත් ළමයි, you need to recommend for the particular company the which methods they need to follow the linear production function. Linear production function, that means they can exchange particular inputs between the different kind of outputs. So what happened to the slope? Slope means, you know, the marginal rate of technical substitution. That means marginal rate of technical substitution means, so the one input may be substituted by another input to produce in the same level of output. But what happened for the this kind of, if it is a linear production function related one, the MRTS become constant. So that means the one input, the same level of input, you need to substitute by another input. කලින් එකේ මොකද උනේ? Curve එක පහළට එද්දි මොකද වෙන්නේ? So what happened? The slope become decrease. Slope become decrease. That means this straight line means fully linear production function, if it is relating to the fully linear production function. The second type, so it's like this one. So sometimes you need to use the fully machine related, or sometimes the combination of the capital and the labor. So if the isochronous curve become the L type curve, මේවා දැන් L වගේනේ තියෙන්නේ. So what happened to the slope? මේකේ slope එක මොකක්ද? The slope can be either 0. Make a slope either 0 or the slope can be infinity. The slope can be infinity. So this is a right angle curve. If it is a right angle curve means this is a perfect complements. The perfect complements means you need to use the propositions of the capital and the labor to take the same level of output. To generate the same level of output, you need both are required. You need the proportions from your inputs. We call the proportions. So that means this is a fixed amount of proportion to represent the fixed amount. If it is a straight line, so this is a fixed. So this is a vertical line, this is a fixed. If it is a curve, this is not a fixed. To show the fixed propositions, so that means if you are using the L-type curve, we call this is the Leontief production function. So the Leontief production function, so they use in the fixed ratios for the capital and the labor, and also they cannot substitute. So this is a complement. So that means both two are required. So we cannot comment on the slope. The slope can be either 0 or infinity. So another methods to find the marginal rate of technical substitution. So you can take MPL. The MPL means what? MP means what? The previous we discussed Lamai. Marginal product of labor divided by marginal product of capital. Or you can use the formula, the delta K divided by delta L. So according to the three kind of situation, the Cobb-Douglas function represent if it is a Cobb-Douglas function, the curve, the isochronous curve should be like this. So if your question consisted this kind of isochronous curve, you need to identify this is a Cobb-Douglas function. This is a Cobb-Douglas production function they are using for the if it is a straight line, so they are using the linear production function. If it is a right angle curve, they are using the Leontief production function. Any issues you can ask. Okay, come to this. So you can see the isochronous curve. This is to explain to what happened to the isochronous curve. The slope of the isochronous curve. What happened to the slope? So from here to these 2 points, you can see the capital change becomes 6293. This is not 1 to 2. So that means 3 divided by 1, the slope becomes 3. The so the capital change is 1, the labor change also 1, the slope become 1. So now, so when we come to the lower side of the particular isochronous curve, the MRTS continuously decreasing. Because, so that means both two are required for the production, That means we need to use the combination. A different kind of combination we can use to generate the same level of output. We call the isochronous. Or the MRTS also suggest the 1 unit of inputs that should be substituted by another level of inputs to generate the same output. The slope become decrease. So what else? So if the curves become if the isochronous curve is a curve, so this is the Cobb-Douglas production function. They are using the Cobb-Douglas production function. This is the Cobb-Douglas production function. So with the Cobb-Douglas function, the MRTS decrease. The each A, B, C, D kind of the bundles represent. This is the points of the different kind of combinations. Different kind of combinations. So out of different kind of combinations, you can select the optimum quantity that where the point the cost becomes zero. එතකොට isocons වල ළමයි cost එක නැහැ. ඔයාගේ ඔළුවේ තියෙන්න ඕනේ isocons curve එකක තියෙන්නේ mix of the labor and capital to generate the same level of output. මෙතන දැන් B ගත්තත් හදන්න පුළුවන් 100යි, ඒව ගත්තත් හදන්න පුළුවන් 100යි. But the second important thing is, if the Cobb-Douglas production function isocons curve, this is subject to law of diminishing marginal rate of substitution. So that means you need to apply diminishing marginal rate of substitution. So diminishing marginal rate of substitution means the diminishing. Diminishing means this should be decreased. Diminishing. අඩු වෙන්න ඕන. The marginal rate of technical substitution means, so the with the calculation also you know. So when it comes to the lower side of the isocons curve, what happened to the MRTA should be decreased. Why? So that means why? So the one input used to increase the another input, you need to employ the another additional inputs. So if you need to increase the input, what you need to do? If you need to increase your input, ඔයාට input එක වැඩි කරන්න ඕන නම්, if you need to increase the inputs of one another, you need to sacrifice, you need to reduce the inputs of your labor or capital. If you need to increase the labor, so you need to deduct the capital intensive. If you need to increase the labor, you need to deduct the capital. So continuously this combination should be decreased. So the second part, the ISO cost. ISO cost means what? So word consisted ISO cost. ISO means what? ISO means the combination of the labor and capital. Combination of labor and capital we call the ISO cost. ISO. Cost means what? The total cost. Simply, the ISO cost means the total cost of each possible combination is a function of market prices. Simply, the cost එකක් නේ ළමයි. Cost එකක් means the value එකක්. The value means the ISO means the different combination of the K and L. The different combination of the K and L. As this combination, you need to multiply with the market prices of the inputs. We call the ISO cost. Simply, this is a total cost of each possible combination, because the isocons curve consists of the combination. මෙන්න මේ තියෙන combination වල you need to take the market prices of the inputs and you need to multiply. We call the ISO cost. This is the ISO cost. Relating to the ISO cost, there is another definition given. So the cost to the producer at the same amount of money. This is a cost to the producer. Producer ki cost එක ISO cost. That means the possible combination of the capital and labor with their market prices we call the ISO cost. The ISO cost function given, so you can derive the function. The C means the cost equal WL plus RK. W become the wage rate. If you are using the labor, you need to multiply by using the wage. So if it is a capital, you need to multiply by the renter. You need to multiply by the renter. So another formula you can use to ISO cost. Cost become the C. So take the labor rate, we take the CL, cost of labor into labor, cost of labor into labor plus the cost of capital into capital. So this is also another formula to generate the ISO cost curve. ISO cost curve. Okay, come to the slope of the ISO cost curve. Now there is an example was there. For this is a curve. The cost is the WL plus the RK. So this is the cost ළමයි. So why the slope become this one? I mean slope එකකටදී මෙහෙම එකක් ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. Slope means what? So if I ask the find the slope, how to find the slope? How to find the slope? Slope එක හොයද්දි කොහොමද කරන්නේ? As a function, you can, yeah, the delta capital divided by delta x. If it is a straight line, so the function become y equal mx plus c. Y equal the mx plus c. For that equation, the y-axis represent the k. So y-axis represent the k. Y එක වෙනුවට දැන් අපිට ඉන්නේ මොකද්ද මෙතන ළමයි k axis. So that means that's the reason to find the slope. So you need to find the answer for the capital. එතකොට මේ slope එක හොයන්නවා මොකද කරන්න ඕනේ? You need to derive the function of k. The major function c equal wl plus rk. දැන් මට ඕනේ k ව හොයන්න. So what I can do? The both side. So I can divide by the r. So the r into r, I can remove the k equal the c divided by r. So this is a plus 1, c divided by r. This plus wl into r you can transfer to this side. This is become minus w divided by r equal to the k. So this is the slope of the isocost curve. The curve එකේ. So if you are selecting the any kind of, we can select any kind of cost from here. මේක තියෙන ලක්ෂවලින් මොනවද පෙන්වන්නේ ළමයි? This point represent on what? So the isocost curve represent on what? So that means this is represent the total cost of each possible combination. That means simply the cost, any points of the isocost curve represent to you the every possible total cost. So that means this is show the every possible total cost. That means the possible total cost. Possible total cost to your different kind of combination. So, and also different kind of combination was there. Out of different kind of combination, you need to select the optimum combination as well. For the there are a lot of points were there. Out of that lot of points, you need to select the optimum combination as well, because the points represent the every possible total cost, or some one point represent the optimum combination of the input into their market prices. This is the ISO cost. The ISO cost curve become a straight line. Make එන්නේ ළමයි straight line එක. ISO cost curve become the straight line. So there is an example given. Come to the example. This is very simple one. This is for your understanding. The firm's weekly operating the budget become the 1,000. Budget become the 1,000 means they are in the positions to use the 1,000 amounts for the cost. Per worker wage rate 100 and the weekly capital rate 150. For the if it is a iso cost functions, we can derive the C equal the waste rate become the 100 L plus the capital rate become the 150 K. The budget given the total the iso cost represent the different combination of inputs with the market prices, the value they allocated with the 1000 equal 100 L plus 150 K. So likewise, you need to identify your iso cost curves. Yes. These are the different kind of iso cost curve. Now, so relating to the each production function, you need to identify how the isocons are occurred. The isocons, if it is a Cobb-Douglas, isocons should be a curve. So if it is a linear function, this should be the straight line. If it is a Leontief, this should be the L curve. But any kind of the situation, the isocosts didn't change. That means the total cost of each possible combinations of the inputs. Inputs වලට යන එකනේ ළමයි. එතකොට මේවා රවුමට යන්නේ නැහැ. So that means the slope of the particular curve become constant. The slope of the particular curve become constant. This is didn't change. This part didn't change. Now what happened? For the first curve, so if you need to go out of the particular curve, if your curve is shifted right side, may right side එකට shift වුණොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ ළමයි? So that means this curve represent the cost නේ. එතකොට මේ cost එක මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? So if you need to shift your isocost curve to the right side, so this simply definitely to use that different kind of the input bundles, you need to pay more to the particular customers. You need to pay more. So this is a cost එකනේ. එතකොට cost එක වැඩි. So any kind of isocost curve shifted to the right side, that means you need to pay more cost. ඔයාට cost එක වැඩිපුර ගෙවන්න වෙනවා. Different cost level. This represent the different cost level. So if you come, the curve is shifted to the left side, වමට බර වෙනවා කියන්නේ ළමයි, the cost become decreased. The cost become decreased. The second type, the without shifting. So what happened? Only the one side become change, because if it is the particular curve should be can be changed due to the labor changes and the capital market changes or both. But only if one variable become changed, the curve shift only that side only. So if the labor rate become decrease, what happened? So if the labor rate become decrease, then මෙතන labor rate එක decrease වුණොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ ළමයි? So if the labor rate become decrease, if you are become the rational company, rational manager or the economist කෙනෙක් නේ, if you are become the rational economist, you are need to focus the more labor intensive. මෙන්න මේ isocons curve එකේ you are going to select the lower points. Why? So the lower points represent the more labor intensive and lower capital intensive. So that means if it is a wage rate become increased, if the wage rate become increased, what happened? You are going to reduce your cost relating to that side only. ඒ පැත්තෙන් විතරක් ඔයා වැඩි කරනවා. These are the things you need to identify. So there are some general understanding given. You know these things you can read, because as a producer, if you need more inputs, what you need to do is you need to spend more. So if you need to more amount, that means how you are going to represent the isocost. So that means you need to pay more money. That means your isocost curve, the cost curve shifted to the right side. Your cost curve shifted to the right side. And the another one, so if the one input variable become changed, the particular curve shift only that side only. Because inputs curve are constant. If the prices are constant, what happens? Prices are constant. The isocost lines are parallel. මේක තියෙන prices constant නම් ළමයි. If the prices are constant, so you can see the isocost line should be parallel. Lines parallel වෙලා යනවා. So that means if the labor prices and the capital prices are constant without changes, if you can only think you can increase the inputs bundles. So that means the isocost curve should be parallel. And the second scenario, so if you increase the price of labor markets, if you increase the price of labor price එක වැඩි වුණොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? If your labor prices are increased, your isocost curve steeper. Isocost curve steeper means what? Steeper means what? Isocost curve becomes steeper. What is the meaning of steeper? Anyone? Isocost curve becomes steeper. More steeper means what? The cost becomes steeper. So what? So if it is increase the price of capital, the isocost curve become flatter. So flatter and steeper. Explain. Steep means what? Anyone? You are learning the managerial economics. This is a managerial economics because you need to use this one for the manager's perspective. Flatter and the steep. Steeps means what? Steep වෙනවා කියන්නේ මොකක්ද ළමයි? ඒක දන්නෙත් නෑ නේද? Steeps. බෑවුමට මොකද වෙන්නේ? Yes. The steep means what happened to the cost curve. The cost curve become more which side angle? Yes, the slope is getting larger. So what happened? The slope getting larger. So if it is a steep, because if it is a plateau means, so that curve try to become the straight line. Plateau එකකට යනවා means this is a more probability to become the straight line. So the cost behavior you need to identify. So there is a questions to test your knowledge. So the entire questions and the case I will discuss with you with the additional session. The next one, the cost minimizing rule. So you need to identify where the point you are going to cost minimization input, because the cost to find the cost minimization input. Now to cost minimization means you need to select the input and the cost. Both two is there ළමයි. Input and the cost. ඔයා මොකද කරන්න ඕනේ? The cost minimizing our input means you are going to select the output with the lowest possible cost. Simply the output with the lowest possible cost. දැන් ඒ දෙකන හොයන්න ඕනේ. So the inputs we can identify with the iso cost. So if it not if it is a isocons, the isocons curve is there. You can see the isocons curve. The units to generate the 100 unit of 100 units, the different kind of combinations given. The iso cost curve given, two cost curves given to generate the combination. These are the cost. Because cost minimization, the cost minimization means we are going to produce the same level of output with the lowest possible cost. With the lowest possible cost now, so which iso cost curve we need to select? If it is a C2 or C1, so if it is C2 or C1, so if you are go to with the C1 curve, what happened? So definitely you need to pay the highest amount of you need to pay the highest amount of the cost to the same level of output. So this simply to generate this is a minimum cost. That means you need to select the output with the lowest possible cost. The lowest possible cost, the decision criteria is the both slope should be equal. The both slope should be equal. That means the slope of the isocons curve. The slope of the isocons curve means what? The MRTS. The MRTS. Give me a 1 second. So that means the both two slopes should be equal. So the slope of the isocons curve and the slope of the isocost curve, where the point both two are equal, we call this is the minimum cost of the input. Minimum cost of the input. Another formula given to find the marginal rate of technical substitution. So you can divide the W divided by R. W means the labor rate divided by the W means what? The W means the wage rate. For the previous one we used wage rate, and the R means what? The R means the capital payment. So if you divide the wage rate into the capital payment, so this point, this is another one to find the marginal rate of technical substitution. So you can find the MRTS. Three methods were there. The cost minimizing input mix means where the point the slope should equal to the isoconst and the isocost. That point you need to select. So according to this one, for the lowest cost, that means definitely you need to come to the lower isocost curve. Relating to this one, lower cost curve become the C2. Out of C2, so where the points the isocost touch with the isocons, the point you need to select as a minimum cost minimization rule. So according to this one, so this is the point you need to select as a cost minimizing input. Because inputs they generate the 100. මෙතනින් ගියත් ළමයි 100. ඇයි ඔයා මෙතන ඒක එපා කියන්නේ? Can you justify it? Can you justify it? Because I directly select the B. Now you are confusing at the examination. We are giving this kind of situations. How we are going to comment on? Please justify. Quick. Please justify. Anyone? Please talk. At least one line. So ඇයි මේ මෙතන ඒක එපා කියන්නේ? The reason is the first thing isocost. මේ නිල් එක්කෙනා කවුද? Isocost. This is the curve of the isocost. Isocost represent the different types of combination inputs with the same level of output. 100ක් ගන්නනේ තියෙන්නේ ළමයි. එතකොට මේ 100 units ගන්න you can utilize this amount of cost and you can take this amount of cost. Cost minimizing කියද්දිම තියෙනවා you are trying to use the lowest possible cost. If it is the lowest possible cost, you need to select the isocost curve that inside the first isocost curve. So if you are to take the slope are equal. Why lamai? මේ දෙකේම slope එක equal නේ. Isocost curve. The reason is both prices are increased constantly. Prices are constant, but to acquire this unit, so you need to pay high. So that means simply, so with the lowest isocost curve, so where the point your isoconst curve touch with the isocost curve, the point you need to select as a minimum cost rule, minimum input. This is the expansion part. Because if you are to become the production company, so you need to find the minimum path as well as you need to try to expand your business. So how you can expand your business? So what is the path? The expansion path you need to develop by using the isoconst and the isocost curve. So the expansion path, if I link with the previous one, you already know. So where the point, the isocost curve touch with the isoconst curve, the point we call the cost minimizing output. So with that cost minimizing output, you need to select the optimum input combination. This is the optimum input combination. If you are ended with the highest profit, to take the highest profit, you need to engage with that optimum input combination. Because we need to try to develop the more output with the lowest possible cost. More output with more output වැඩියෙන් හදන්න ඕන cost එක අඩුවෙන් යන්නත් ඕන. So this is the rule. To develop the previous part, the isocost touched by the isoconst, the point you need to select as a cost minimizing point as well as the point, the optimum input combination. Now the expansion part. If you are a wish to expand your company, you need to derive your expansion path where the point the isocost and isoconst are touched. By selecting these points, you can develop the expansion path. So if you wish to expand your company, so this is the first one kind of optimum input. This is a one kind of optimum input. Relating to the second scenario, this is another one. So you need to select where the isocost and isocost are touched with the point. By linking these 3 points, you can derive your expansion path. If you wish to expand your company, definitely you need to go with this line. This line. So now you need to keep in your mind the expansion also for the output optimum amount of input as well as the cost minimizing output. Both are linked with isocost and the isoconst. So where the point these two curves are touched or crossed, the point you need to select as the optimum amount. Okay. So this is also relates with the previous one. So that means the according to this scenario, this is also to select the optimum input substitution according to this one. So what happened? The first scenario, we have the three kind of isocost curve. Three kind of isocost curve. We have the tree. The first thing, so this isocost curve. So if I select this one, what happened? The change relating to the labor market. There is a changes in the labor market. With that change, what happened? Labor පැත්තෙන් අඩු කරලා තියෙනවා ළමයි. The change arising on what? The changes of the prices of the labor market. So if it is a labor market, prices become high, you can change only your curve relating to the horizontal axis. Horizontal axis means the labor axis side. So what you can do? So you can change your production bundles. You can change your production bundles. So consider this one. So what is this? So what is this? So this is means your new or isocost curve. So where the optimum input, how you are going to find the optimum input? This any combination within the isocost curve. So we can say this is the cost for different kind of combination. But if it is become the lowest one or optimum quantity, the reason is you need to select the isocost and the isocons where the point these two are touched. එතකොට මේ දෙන්න ඔයා තෝරන්න ඕනේ where the point these two are touched with. Come to the scenario. Now this scenario explain what happened. So this is the first scenario. So the A situation and the B was there. With the A, what happened? So this is the one kind of the optimum quantity because two lines are, this is the optimum amount according to the previous one. Previous one, what happened? මෙතන තියෙනවා ළමයි our isocost and the isocons curve touched with this point. This is the minimum cost and the optimum. With the labor market, what happened? They are going to decrease the labor usage. Labor adu kara and they increase the capital intensive. So now what happened? With the increase of the capital incentive, so our optimum input bundles, the optimum input bundles also change. Optimum input bundles also change. Because with the different kind of scenarios, we can give this kind of changes. Because if it is a capital market changes, මේ පැත්තෙන් change වුණොත් මොකද කරන්න වෙන්නේ ළමයි? If it is a capital market changes, the optimum amount you need to find it's the area around the labor market. එතකොට මේ පැත්තෙන් අඩු වෙන්නේ. They are going to decrease the capital requirement and they are going to increase the labor requirement. So likewise, so this is the production, end of the production function. Okay, so now I'm quickly moving to the, we take the too much of time. Production cost. මේක අමාරු නෑ ළමයි යා මේක ඔයා දන්න දේ. So the first thing, so I can start with the cost discussion. That means the short run you already know. The what is the meaning of the short run? Short run means simply for the previous session also discussed. So there should be a at least one fixed inputs we call the short run. The at least one fixed input is there simply for the short run. the capital become the fixed input. Because the capital become the fixed input means what? So you cannot change the capital requirement. So within the time period, you cannot change it. For the short run, that means there is a fixed as well as the variable part was there. For the cost, you can identify there is a variable cost as well as the fixed cost. The fixed cost means the fixed cost you cannot change. So that means with the production output, the cost is never changed. We call the fixed cost. The variable cost means the with the production units, with the production outputs, the whichever the cost become change. Whichever the cost become change. As the short run production function, so you can see the product short run, there is a total variable cost was there in the short run, and also the fixed cost was there. So that means as a function you can write the total cost equal, in the short run the total cost equal TVC plus TFC. Both two kind of cost we can see at the short run. So now you need to identify the average fixed cost. Average fixed cost means what? The fixed cost. Average fixed cost means the total fixed cost you need to divide by the number of outputs. Simply the AFC means per unit. Simply this is the per unit fixed cost. So if we are going to identify the per unit fixed cost, we call the AFC. That means you are going to allocate to it entire fixed cost between the total requirement. But the thing is, this fixed cost is not vary with your output, and also what happened to the average fixed cost. Because if you the fixed cost is didn't change. If you draw the fixed cost function, the fixed cost didn't change. This is a straight line. The fixed cost is didn't change. But what happened to the average fixed cost? Average fixed cost means we are going to allocate that fixed amount in between our production. What happened? The average fixed cost continuously decreasing with the number of units. If you produce more, what happened? Your average fixed cost decline. But the AFC cannot be zero. Binduwa වෙන්න ළමයි. This is continuously decreasing. The second one for the variable cost part. So you can identify the average variable cost. The total variable cost means the cost. The variable cost means the total labor cost used for the production. Simply for the short run, we have the K and L. Out of L become the variable and the K become the fixed. So that means simply the average variable cost means we allocate the total variable cost, total labor cost in between our output, we call the average variable cost. In the short run, so that is only one cost become change. So that is the cost change with the output. That is the cost change with the output. So that means for the shape of the average cost, what happened with the production? This is continuously decrease and they may reach to the minimum point, and after that the average variable cost become increase. So which rule was there? Which rule was there? What happened to the fixed cost? The fixed cost constant. The fixed cost didn't change, but what happened to the AFC? AFC become decreased. But the AVC or TVC, with the production, the cost is continuously increasing. But average variable cost, but the number of production units, this is decrease and they may reach to the minimum and continuously increasing. So what was there? So which one was there? For the short run, so there is a law applicable, we call the law of diminishing returns. Law of diminishing returns. What is the meaning of law of diminishing return? What is the law of diminishing return? Now we are going to add the variable inputs to the fixed input. Eventually, the extra output you got from the new workers to starts to what happened? So now we are going to add in. You are going to add the variable inputs. You are going to add the variable inputs to the fixed input. Eventually, the extra output you got from each new works starts to shine. Starts to shine. So that means ඔයා මේකේ දාද්දි මොකද වෙන්නේ ළමයි? So what happened? So if you are increasing by the one input, what happened? The cost is continuously decreasing. It's reached to the minimum. After that, the cost become increase. That means the reason is what? The reason is what? The reason is there is a highest capital cost. The highest capital cost, the reason is the fixed cost didn't change. So these are the basic මේ ටික ළමයි ඔයාලගේ information වලට. So this is the ATZ. The ATZ also same. The ATZ means you can take the AFC, the average fixed cost plus the average variable cost. The average fixed cost plus the average variable cost you can take, or you can allocate the total cost in between the total output we call the ATC. The ATC also same. So what happened? This is also declines. They come to the minimum, and after that it's increasing. The increase in parts that's very similar to the average variable cost. Average variable cost. As a graphical part, simply we can identify for the graphical part. You need to identify the fixed cost. This is the fixed cost. The fixed cost and the total variable cost starting with 0. This is the total variable cost that start with the 0, and at the point of the fixed cost there is a TC. TC. What happened? The fixed cost didn't change with the production. Fixed cost didn't change. මෙයා වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ ළමයි. And the difference between the TVZ and the TC, the differences between these two also become the FC. This is also the FC. These are basic. Okay. Now the marginal cost. So marginal cost means what? The marginal cost means you need to identify. So you are going to increase the 1 unit of. You are going to increase the 1 unit of output. So that means you are going to increase the 1 unit of output. With the change of 1 unit of output, how your total cost become change? The marginal cost. That means an incremental increase in the total cost. Incremental increase in the total cost due to the 1 unit of change. ඔයා එකකින් change කරලා බලනවා how your total cost is respond to the 1 unit of change. To find the MC, there are a lot of methods you can use. The changes of the total cost you can divide by the delta Q, because at the short run you know the changes arise only variable cost only, because the fixed cost become fixed. That means this fixed cost didn't change. So that means no need to consider the fixed cost. So that means the delta VC divided by delta Q, or you can use the differentiation of the total cost curve become the MC. Differentiation of the total cost curve become the MC. As an example, I will use the TC equal Tc equal 0.1 x to the power 3 minus 3 Tc 2x to the power 3 plus or minus 3 this not x lamai this is q gam quantity ne q to the power 2 plus 60 q plus 100 plus 100. So now you can see to derive the MC you can take the differentiation of the to derive the MC function you can take the differentiation of the MC TC. So how to take the differentiation? Take the index number and multiply by 2, that means 6, and with the power you can deduct 1, q to the power 2 minus 2 into 3 becomes 6, q2 minus 1 become q in here, plus the with the q unknown variable the value become 1 into 60 becomes 60, the q you need to remove the q and this 100 automatically removed, the MC function become this. To find the MC means the incremental increase in the total cost due to the 1 unit changes of the output. That means to find the marginal cost, the delta TC divided by delta Q or delta VC divided by delta Q, or you can take the first differentiation of your total cost function become the MC. Other side, opposite side. So if you take the integration, first integration of the MC, first integration of the MC should be the TC function. May differentiation correct, we call the MC function. If you are to take the integration of the MC, this should be the TC. So what happened to the MC? So I calculated the values as well. For the MC, what happened? So this chart explains this part. The MC continuously decreasing. Continuously decreasing, that means if you are increase by 1 unit, what happened to the cost? Cost become decreased. Cost decrease, but if they reach to the minimum point, they become increased. Now with the calculation you can see this is continuously decreased, but after this point it's happened, it's become increase. It's become increase. It's very similar to the marginal productivity of labor. Marginal product. Come to the see the marginal product. So if you increase the quantity, the marginal product increase. So the if the MC become decrease, what happened to the marginal product? Marginal product become increase. Marginal product become increase. So that means if you are a change in the 1 unit of output, how this impact to the total product? And if the MC become increase, what happened to the marginal product? Marginal product become decrease. So the thing is you need to identify the marginal cost, the additional cost continuously decreasing and it's reached to the minimum, and after that this become increase. Okay, to find the combinations. To find the combination, so this is the relationships. For the relationships, my first question is, so the AFC curve like this, why? So with the more unit of output, you know the average fixed cost decreased. But the AVC curve is there, AVC reached to the minimum and after that it's become increased, the minimum point. And the why the ATC curve is higher than the AVC. දැන් මෙතන ATC එක වැඩි වෙන ළමයි AVC එකට වඩා why? Why it's higher than the AVC? The reason is the ATC representing the both fixed cost as well as the variable cost. That is the reason the ATC curve is higher than this. The relationship means the minimum, the MC curve should be go with the minimum points of AVC and ATC. So what happened? So if the ATC decreased and the AVC decreased, MC also decreasing. What happened? Both two are, if the where the point, so the ATC and the AVC decrease. ATC and AVC decrease. So that means මේ දෙකත් එක්ක බලද්දි ළමයි MC value is lower than the AVC and the ATC. මේ දෙන්න උඩින් ඉන්නේ. මේ දෙන්න උඩින් ඉන්නවා කියන්නේ MC අඩුයි. So what happened? The reason is what happened? MC decreasing and it's reached to the minimum. It's reached to the minimum and it's going to increase. But the second scenario, if the MC become increasing, what happened? The ATC and AVC increased. එතකොට වැඩක් තියනවද ළමයි? මේ after this area what happened? After this, your MC also increasing, your other cost also become increased. But your target is to identify the minimum cost. To identify the minimum cost. To identify the minimum cost, you need to be there. So where the point you can decrease, you can reduce your total cost. So that means for the recommendation, so you cannot select the where the point your MC is higher than the ATC or AVC. That means your changes become high. Your changes become high. If it is a lower also, what happened? Your cost become decreased. Your cost become decreased. As a summary given, so the where the point MC is higher than the ATC. The මේ හරියේදී උඩින් ඉන්නේ මෙයානේ ළමයි. MC is higher than the ATC. මෙන්න මේ area එකේ මොකද වෙන්නේ? ATC increasing. ATC, MC both are increasing. එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? Company, if you are selecting this kind of the output to the company, what happened? Your cost is increasing. But this one, so your cost is decreasing. So that means for the next part, we can discuss where the point you need to select as the best possible cost amount to the company. This is to identify the relationships with the relationship. So you can identify if the AVC and the ATC decreasing, so the MC also decreased. But ATC and the AVC increasing, MC also increased. And also MC curve should be crossed with the minimum points of the ATC and the AVC. ATC and the AVC. Okay, so this is the important point. This is the important point. The reason is the long run. So with the long run, so the long run means this is a period of time. Your all the variables become, all the inputs become variable. Variable, there is a no any fixed inputs was there, and given the technology also constant. The technology, if it is a short run or long run, we need to think if it is a constant. Because the simple thing, the long run, there is a no any, in the long run, there is a no any fixed inputs or the fixed input. That means all variable become, where all inputs become variable. That means for the production function, Q into function of quantity of K and L. So both are become variable. Long run means what? So whichever the time period they required to convert all the inputs to the variable form. So that means there are combination of the short run. So we can call the combination of short run. මේවා තියෙන්නේ long run එකක් යන ළමයි මෙන්න මෙහෙම short run ගොඩාක් එකතු වෙලා. The combination of the short run, because for the short run the different kind of cost curve we can see, but the long run the combination of the short run curves we call the long run cost curve. So that's the reason you can see the long run cost curve like this. This is U-shaped curve was there for the U-shaped curve. For the U-shaped curve, what happened to this one? So this area cost become continuously decreased. The cost decreased. You can see, so out of this area, the cost become decreased. In here, the cost become constant and this area become increased. So now I need an answer why this cost become decreased. Why this cost become decreased? The cost decrease relating to the bulk purchasing, because with the names don't worry, because this means if it is a small factory or if it is a larger factory, so they can use the economies of scale. So they to take the economies of scale, this is if they move into the bulk purchases, with the bulk purchases what happened? They can take the discounts. So with the discount what happened? They can use the economies of scale. So this is a constant. මේ පැත්තෙන් යනවා නම් constant ළමයි. The same level of benefits, and this one, this economies of scale, that means for the long run as well, their cost become increased. Their cost become increased. So what are the reasons? So what are the reasons? So this point. So this, where the point, if you are utilizing the economies of scales, and where the point that starts to become constant returns to scale, we call the minimum efficient scale. This is the MES we call the minimum efficient scale. Minimum efficient scale. What is the minimum efficient scale? Minimum efficient. So the simply minimum efficient means this is the smallest scale. So this is the smallest scale at which cost per unit are attained. The smallest scale which cost per units are attained. මෙතන තමා මෙන්න මේ cost එකට මේ units ගාන use කරන්න තියෙන අඩුම තැන ළමයි. We call the minimum efficient scale. So if you go for this one, what happened? The units is okay, the cost is okay, but what happened? The units increasing. The minimum means the lowest. Lowest, this is the smallest scale, the which cost per units are attained. The lowest. So this point we can say this is a maximum efficient scale. So this is we call the maximum efficient scale. Maximum efficient means this is the highest level of output firm can produce before the average cost increasing. Before the cost increasing, where the point they can produce and where the amount they can utilize for their benefit. As a benefits, where the points they can utilize. මෙතනින් පස්සේ මොකද වෙන්නේ ළමයි? The cost become increased. That means diseconomies of scales was there. So that means this point, where the point the curve become horizontal line. So the constant returns of the scale, the first part you need to identify as this minimum means of scale and the maximum efficient scale. Maximum efficient scale. So what else? for the long run. How this long run curve is derived? How the long run curve is derived? How we can derive the long run curve? How we can derive? This is the cost. This is the quantity. So the long run curve we can derive with the short run curve. So that means the LRTC equal the number of short run curves. Short runs curve එකතු වෙලානේ මෙයා හැදෙන්නේ. To develop the long run average cost curve, you need to take the minimum points of the short run cost curve. So you need to take the minimum points of the short run cost curves. If you are taking that minimum point, you can derive the long run cost curve. Long run cost curve. So within that area, so if out of the size of the organization, they can utilize if it is economies of scale. So if it is a constant return or if it is a diseconomies of scale. With the economies of scale, what need to be happen? The cost, the long run total cost. එහෙම පහලට යද්දි මොකද වෙන්න ඕනේ ළමයි? The average total cost should be decreased. If the cost is decreased, we call this is the economies of scale. In here, there's no economies of the scales. These are constant. These are constant. And here what happened? The cost become increasing. The ATC become increasing. ATC become increasing means due to the inefficient production strategies you are using, the relating to the use of your output, the inputs, the cost can be increased. So at the end, you need to identify the different kind of reasons as well. The long run cost curve, you know, this is U-shaped curve. Why? If it is a U-shaped curve with the long run, so they can utilize the economies of scales, or they can use the diseconomies of scales. Relating to the economies of scales, they can utilize incremental economies of scale and the constant economies of scale and the diseconomies of scales. How the long run curve we can derive? By the long run curve we can derive by using the number of short run curves. This we can construct it by using the various short run curve. Short run curve, without short run curve, you cannot derive the long run cost curve. You cannot derive the long run cost curve. The fourth one given. Fourth one. So what happened? So with the changes of the marginal cost of the particular as example, so we can the function like this. So with the changes of this one, so without considering the size of the plant, because the size of the plant is not a matter, because relating to the economies of scale, sometimes the smaller firms can be utilized the economies of scale. Sometimes the highest firms, the largest firms can be used the diseconomies of scale. Because the important thing is you need to consider the marginal cost. The why they utilize the diseconomies of scales due to the results of the increase or decrease of the marginal cost. That is the important thing. So if a marginal cost become decreased, so that means you are ended with the economies of scale. You may take the benefits of the cost. So if your marginal cost increase means you may end up with diseconomies of scale. So relating to the economies of scales as well as the diseconomies of the scales, the size is not the issue. How we can derive? By taking the lowest point of the short run cost curve, we can derive the long run curve. We can derive the long run curve. For the long run total cost, you know the long run total cost is equal to the total output. Total output. If it is relating to the capital and the labor, so you need to take the total cost of this one. The average long run cost means the average total cost. You need to divide by the quantity, and also for the marginal cost. This is the important things. You need to identify what happened to the marginal cost. So if it is become increase, what happened? You may end up with diseconomies of scales. So if it is a marginal cost become decrease, you may end up with economies of scales. Economies of scale. Okay. The next one, the relationships. So now you need to identify the relationship between the short run and the long run. For the relationship, for the short run, you know, you have the both input variable, capital and the labor. For the short run, it can be a number of short run average cost can be there. Short run cost curves, lot of short run cost curves can be there. So that means out of short run cost curves, what is the relationships? What is the relationship, Lamai? The relationship is, so how we are going to create the long run average cost. This is the short run average cost. The short run average cost means we always select the minimum one. We are going to select the minimum one. For the long run, by selecting the long run means the combination, we call the combination of short run average cost. The combination of short run average cost. For the long run, what we need to do, you need to take the minimum points of each curve. You need to select the minimum points of the each short run average cost, and based on that, by linking this minimum point, you can derive the long run average cost curve. So that can be a 10 or 15 kind of the short run curves can develop a one long run curve, because the long run, we already know there is no any specific time period. That is the time required to convert the total inputs to the variable inputs. So that means you can derive your long run average cost, how you can create the connecting the lowest possible points of all individual short run average cost curves, we call the long run average cost. With that, if it is relating to this one, so where the point like this, so around here, so you may utilize the economies of scale. Economies of scales. After that, this side they become constant. And after that, what happen? Cost become increase. Cost become increase. So that means you need to identify the relationships, as well as you need to identify where the point, if it is using the economies of scales, if it is a constant economics of scale, and the diseconomies of scales. To develop the long run, first thing, without short run curves, we cannot. Without short run curves, we cannot. Okay. So there is a question. Come to this question. So according to there is a newspaper article, because this kind of mini cases can be tested. This is also the very simple case. Okay. So according to the 27th September article in the Wall Street Journal, now with oil, gas and the electricity prices are soaring, companies are beginning to realize that saving energy can translate into dramatically lower cargoes. Another Wall Street article dated September 9, 2025 states, higher grain prices are taking in increase in the financial toll. So this kind of two news were provided to you because you have become the managerial economist. Now you have become the managerial economist. So now you need to analyze both two cases. The first case relating to what? What happened to the oil, gas, and the electricity prices? So what happened to the oil, gas, and the electricity prices are soaring. So because we are using this kind of new words, because so once we type the words, we are using the synonyms, Lamai. So the soaring means what? If it can be applying, no, it can be raised. So the prices become raised. So that means so companies are beginning to realize that saving energy can translate into the dramatically lower cargo. So that means they are going to try to save the energies because the prices become high. The second one given, another article, the higher grain prices are taking in increase in the financial toll. So what is the meaning of financial toll? What is the meaning of financial toll? Hmm? Financial toll? Anyone? Financial toll. The financial toll means this is a heavy cost. The financial toll means a cost to the organization. So now if you are to become the managerial economist, manager in the economy, so you need to analyze these two situations. Energy is an input into the virtually all types of production. This it is a production company. So the corn is an input into the production of beef, chicken, and high Prescott corn syrup and ethanol. So your requirement given, explain how the cost of energy can be both fixed cost and the variable cost to the company. The cost of energy can be variable or the fixed. So can you answer for this one? This is the first one relating to the energy because the first case given, the oil, gas and the electricity prices are increasing. So if it is relating to the everything relating to the energy, you need to comment the cost of energy. How it's become the variable, Lamai? Simply, so if we are producing the more output, if we are to produce more output, so the almost as well as the always requires to use the more energy. Simply. So if you are going to produce more output, ඔයාට වැඩියෙන් හදන්න ඕන නම් මොකද වෙන්නේ ළමයි? If you are to produce the more output, definitely you need to use the more energy. So that means the energy can be variable cost. As well as you need to comment, it can be a fixed cost. How it can be a fixed cost? So the energy cost. For the energy cost, you can comment. So the for the to operate in office building, you need the energy. If it is a factory maintenance, if it is a operating cost of the factory building, if it is relating to the factory maintenance, you can find the factory maintenance, and also relating to the machine maintenance. So you need a energy. So that means relating to this one, the cost you can allocate the fixed amount, the energy cost can be fixed as well. So you can comment to the both two sides. Second question, suppose the energy is a fixed cost. Why energy become the fixed cost? If the energy become fixed cost, what happen? So you can comment for the energy cost. It can be relating to the operating the office building, or it can be relating to the factory maintenance. So if the costs are independent from the output produced, so it is independent from your output. So that means the energy cost can be fixed. Now the second question asks, if the energy is a fixed cost, energy prices are rise, what happens to the company average total cost curve? What happens to the marginal cost curve? Illustrate your answer with a diagram. So this is a hypothetical case ළමයි. The question also general question I'm asking. එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? If the cost are fixed cost. Fixed වුණොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? What happened to the average total cost? How we derive the ATC? ATC we can derive the total cost divided by Q. So if it is a fixed cost, the fixed cost include here. Fixed cost include here. So what happened? The ATC become increase. With the ATC become increase, what happened? Your ATC curve, මෙහෙම තියෙන curve එක should be shifted to the right side. තව චුට්ටක් උඩට යනවා because the reason is ATC shift. And what happened to the marginal cost curve? Marginal cost. What happened to the marginal cost? What happened to the marginal cost? With that changes, if it is a fixed cost, so what happened? There is a no connection with the output. If your fixed cost become changed, your marginal cost become constant. Why? There is a no any output changes. If there is a no any output changes, so your fixed cost only change. But in the delta Q, the Q side, there is a no any responses. So that means there is a no any changes relating to the marginal cost. That means for the minimum point, the marginal cost curve go to the inside. By using this kind of graphs, you need to explain. The third scenario, so the explain why the cost of corn is variable cost. Explain why the cost of corn is variable cost, but not a fixed cost for the ethanol producer. Now, if you are become the ethanol producer, the question asks, cost of corn is a variable, not a fixed cost. How you are going to justify? So the corn become the input of the ethanol. Simply you can comment the corn become the input of the ethanol. That means the corn become the variable cost. So why the corn is not a fixed cost? Why the corn is not a fixed cost? With the production, what happened to the corn requirement? The corn requirement become vary. So that means, so you can comment corn is a variable cost. The last one asks, when the cost of corn grows up, the corn cost goes up, what happens to the average total cost curve of an ethanol producer? What happens to the marginal cost curve? Illustrate your answers. So what happened now? With the new situation, what happened? The corn prices goes up. If the corn prices goes up means what? The cost of the variable cost become increase. Cost of the variable cost become increase means TVC increase. Definitely if the TVC increase means your average total cost should be increased. That means your average total cost should be increased. The new curve should be higher than the previous one. Ethanol producer, that means being an ethanol producer have to incur highest average total cost than the previous scenario. What happens to the marginal cost? What happened to the marginal cost? Marginal cost, if it is a vary, that means with the production, now your marginal cost like this. So with the production, what happened? What happened to the marginal cost curve? If your corn prices goes up, what happened? Corn prices goes up means your TVC become high. The marginal cost, what happened? Marginal cost. Marginal cost එකට මොකද වෙන්නේ ළමයි? What happened to the marginal cost? Is it increase or decrease? Yes. What happened to the marginal cost? Marginal cost become increase. So that means they are definitely, it may cross with another point, the minimum point of the ATC. So with these things, we can identify where the point they need to produce for the profit maximizations. So this part we will discuss accordingly. Okay, this kind of similar cases can be there. Next part we need to discuss the returns to scale. The returns to scale. The returns to scale means what? Simply the returns to scale. Returns to scale. Returns to scale means, so how your changes of the input changes apply to the changes of the output. Returns to scale. Returns, we are going to learn the returns to the scale. So that means how your changes of the inputs, the changes of the input means you can change K and also you can change L. The changes of the capital and the labor proportionates, how these are applied to the output changes, we call the returns to scale. Proportionate increase in the output that results from a proportionate increase in the all the inputs. That means simply the changes of the capital and the labor changes, how these changes apply for the changes of the final output. By looking at the changes we can identify. Sometimes you increase the 10%, but actually your output increased by the lowest percent. Lowest one. Output increase උනේ වැඩි වෙයි, අඩු වෙයි. So we call the decrease in return. We call the decrease in return. Your return become decrease. We call the DRTS situation. The DRTS. The second one, so if you are increasing the input 10%, your output also increase by 10. That means we call the constant return. Constant return. The last one, so the higher than the input increase percentage, your output become change. We call the increase in return. Increase in return. Simply increase in means you are trying to change the economies of scale. If it is economies of scale. So the economies of scale means where the point in the long run average total cost, where the point before the minimum efficient scale. Before the minimum efficient scale, we call the particular producers can utilize the increase in returns to scale. In between the minimum efficient scale and the maximum efficient scale, we call the constant. This is the constant area. With the constant area, both are equal. The decrease in the returns means decrease in returns. Diseconomies of scale means after the what happened, your cost should be increased. After the maximum efficient scale, your cost become high. Your cost become high. So this three we need to learn more. So the long run cost function was there. This is a combination of the total short run average cost function by connecting the minimum possible points. We need to connect the minimum possible points. If it is a constant return, we need to take the middle in between these two. In between these two. So this kind of things today we are going to discuss. the with the time because you also too tired with the working for the next day. So I will complete the remaining part of the cost. The cost also we have to discuss the lot of things, Lamai. The linking with the Cobb Douglas functions and everything we need to discuss. And the after that we can start the next session. Okay. The don't worry for these sessions for the basic things for the microeconomics, because at the examination also there is no any questions that ask in the definition and everything questions. So this time we are following the case based questions. Okay, so that means try to identify the points, so the application you can apply for the different kind of situations. Okay, the start to assignments you have the 2 weeks. So you can go to the LMS. For the LMS, you can see Dropbox is available. For the LMS, Dropbox is available. So, and also if any issues with the assignments, you can ask. So if not, group assignments. So will we be given to separate components or industries for the assignments? Yeah, the thing is for the assignments, it's better to use the more years. If it is a 5 years, this is also okay, but the analysis should be more critical. Okay, so if the availability of the data, you need to justify it, because if the data is available for the more than 5, it's better to take the more than 5 for the group assignment also. So whichever the individual assignment is the best one, you can continue with the particular company. Okay, so with that, the thank you for the participation, and the remaining part we can discuss it the next day. Good night.